Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Chris Hensing. Meg Roberts is away this week. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, snow-covered potholes and the shocking problems that they can cause. What to watch out for this time of year. Windsor's budget goes back into the mayor's hands as council watches for a potential veto to proposed changes. And inside that budget, some money to solve the Banwell and EC Row intersection, but a drop in the bucket compared to total costs. We look at what the city wants from upper levels of government. A fresh layer of snow falling across the city, enough to hide some dangerous potholes. TJ Deere with a look at how this year's weather has done a number on city streets.
You might have seen these popping up earlier this year around Windsor. Potholes. Paul Finlayson was driving along Ojibwe Parkway when his car fell victim to one.
I hit a pothole which I couldn't see because it was covered with water. So we actually wrecked a tire and we've had to order 2 new tires for it.
Now he's out $350 for the damage. But it may not have been an issue for Finlayson last year. The chilly temperatures stayed consistent, so pothole season landed later when things were thawing out. But with this year's warmer temperatures, we're seeing more of them early on, according to the city's maintenance coordinator.
Whenever we get this up and down temperatures, it really wreaks havoc on our roads because you get that freeze-thaw day in and day out. So anything we patch is likely to come out again because it's, going through that freeze-thaw cycle again.
Finlayson says he isn't taking the damage to his car lying down. He wants to be reimbursed, so he filed a damage claim with the city. He also reported the hole in the road with the hopes others don't fall victim to it. But when he called 311,
they said that it would take up to 5 business days for them to come.
Harrison says they're working as hard as they can to fill the holes and clear the roads, but there's only so much they can do. There have already been more than 400 complaints this year about potholes to 311.
We are often shifting gears in the last 2 weeks. One day snow, next day pothole patching. Our staff does do both duties, so it is hard for us to keep the patch crews going when we have to do snow removal at the same time.
Here at Justin's Auto Repair, they've been dealing with 2 to 3 cars per week damaged by potholes so far this year. Justin Lapointe says people are stuck paying out of pocket for their repairs.
If you're talking a $500 repair, someone's deductible maybe $500 to $1,000, it doesn't make sense going through insurance because now you have a hit against your insurance, plus you got to pay the deductible anyways.
For anyone who does find themselves in a situation like Finlayson, with damage from a pothole and believe the city is at fault, the city suggests getting in touch with their insurer first to seek compensation on their behalf. TJ Deere, CBC News, Windsor.
Now with today's snowy weather, a little harder to find those potholes, upwards of 4 centimeters falling today. There is a chance for more flurries or drizzle overnight and then into tomorrow morning. City crews busy salting the roads today. We'll give you a full look at the weather forecast a little later in the show. Major project is about to start at Banwell Road and EC Row Expressway. The City of Windsor will spend $5 million this year to build on and off ramps for a future overpass. But the entire project is going to cost a lot more than that. And as Dale Molnar reports, the city is asking for help from upper levels of government.
Traffic is already heavy at Banwell and EC Row. It's expected to get worse when the next Star battery plant opens next year. An environmental assessment called for an overpass there back in 2016, long before the battery plant was even thought of. The $80 million upgrade project is planned for the area, which will include a $30 million overpass and work on the road from the interchange to the CP rail tracks. Acting City Engineer Mark Winterton says the city is already in talks with the province to help with the funding.
I had a meeting just in early or mid-December with the Ministry of Transportation folks, and we were talking about major infrastructure in the city of Windsor, and they are very much aware of the need for a grade separation at this location.
Banwell Road is called County Road 43 south of the CP tracks, and Essex County will also begin work on widening the stretch from the tracks to County Road 42 this year. Windsor-Tecumseh PC MPP Andrew Dowie says he has been pushing for provincial dollars for the new interchange and that he has made the case to the previous Minister of Transportation and the current one, Prabmeet Sarkaria.
This is quite an important interchange for Ontario's economy, and I've made the case numerous times over the last 15, 16 months.
Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkens wants the province to assume responsibility for the entire expressway. Dowie sees the logic in that argument, but says there are pros and cons to having Ontario take it over. He says the EC Row County Road 22 corridor is vital for the province, but putting the Ministry of Transportation in charge adds a layer of bureaucracy to any plans for development.
There's a reason why sometimes the local municipality is the better government for it, because once you bring in MTO permits, it slows everything down.
CBC News reached out to LG Energy Solution for comment on the Banwell upgrades, but a spokesperson for Stellantis wrote back, "Our focus at Nexstar is on the construction of the EV battery manufacturing facility. Any questions about the surrounding public roadways and highway improvement projects would need to be addressed to the City of Windsor." The town of Tecumseh will not be funding the Banwell intersection project because it lies within the Windsor boundaries. However, the town's Director of Public Works says he is happy to see the project going forward. Mark Winterton says the work on the ramps will begin this summer. Dowie can't say when or if the province will make any decisions on the funding. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
As Windsor's City Council budget talks continue, there are updates on some key municipal issues about parking meters, the historic Jackson Park bandshell, and what to do with Riverfront Festival Plaza. CBC's Dalton Chen has more.
Let's go with E29 parking fees. Can I ask that we do not reinstate parking fees not move parking fees from 6 to 9 p.m.
It's moved.
Second.
Supported. All in favor? Opposed? That carries.
Councillor Agostino's stance on parking fees was one of the few changes that a councillor successfully made to Windsor's 2024 budget. The majority of council supported his position that parking meter enforcement should not be extended from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. City administration said the extension would have generated more than $400,000 in revenue. Downtown Windsor businesses feared the extra parking cost would have driven away customers. At least one downtown Windsor worker is glad council isn't making the parking situation tougher.
It's tough for the client, it's tough for people who lives in those buildings, because there are no private parking for them, so yeah.
Monday's budget discussion brought clarity to another downtown idea, enhancement of the Riverfront Festival Plaza. Council followed administration's recommendation not to pursue putting a 19-meter tall canopy over the space. Instead, the project will involve greening the plaza, improving amenities, and installing a water feature. The no canopy option has an estimated cost of $17.3 million, compared to $67 million for the full-size canopy.
I know some of the discussions around the canopy had to do with providing shade. I think one of the reasons that Festival Plaza currently is really hot in the sun is because it's all black pavement, right? So I think converting it to a green space is certainly going to help. And I think that council has a responsibility to the businesses and to the residents of Windsor to be fiscally responsible.
Council also decided to take a less expensive route on another project involving a city-owned venue, the restoration of the historic Jackson Park bandshell. Council decided to spend up to $120,000 on a feasibility study. The bandshell was at one time a focal point in Windsor's Black history, hosting Martin Luther King Jr. in 1956. One prominent local Black activist is feeling skeptical about the upcoming study.
Nice that we're going to look at it, but are we going to do something? Saying 120,000, 300,000, 100,000, what's the difference? If there are only words being said, if there's no action, that's our history, and it's there for generations to come. So we are leaving our youth a legacy.
Under the province's strong mayor rules, Mayor Drew Dilkins has the power to veto budget amendments made by councillors, but the mayor said he expects this year's budget process will be complete by the end of the week. Dalton Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
The Windsor-Essex County Health Unit is ditching plans to relocate to the University of Windsor. The Health Unit originally announced that they were going to leave its current location on Olette Avenue in 2022. Today, it's halting that move, blaming inflation and financial constraints.
Disappointing to not be able to do the move, but our focus has always been and always will be that the programs and the services to our community are of the highest and utmost priority in the decision making we do for the health unit. Well, we're staying put at Olette. We've been able to extend our lease here. We are looking to stabilize as much as we can, work with the financial funding that we have, work within that allotment over the next 3 years.
The health unit was planning to move to the university's Residence Hall West. It says it did not start any renovations on the building. Today's announcement comes after 24 staff members were laid off due to budget pressures. The university says it still hopes to bring public health programming to the school. It will also be accepting proposals for someone else to take over that campus building. Windsor has a new Canadian Blood Services Plasma Donor Centre, and now individuals will be donating their plasma instead of their blood. That plasma is used by patients who may have immune deficiencies or neurological disorders. CBC's Mike Evans stopped by for a tour of that brand new facility.
Welcome to the Windsor Plasma Donor Centre. We actually opened on January 15th, so we'd love to welcome you to our program. Here you would come in, you would get welcome from our staff, just give them your donor card and we can get the process going. The next step, we will move into the screening booth and I'll walk you through that. In the plasma screening booth, we actually take the donor's height and weight, and that determines what size of donation we will be getting from each donor. So this is an opportunity based on what you have and your height and your weight. We'll slowly progress you to 18% of your blood volume. Again, we do go through the referral questions or deferral questions just to see if you're able to donate. We'll check your medication as well, and from there we can move you on to the next step. This donor is just about finished their donation, but we can walk through what they've had. So the donor comes in, they sit down in the chair, we get them all set up in the machine, and then what happens in the donation is a little bit of their blood is taken out. It's spun really quickly in the centrifuge machine, and their plasma goes into the bottle, and the remaining products go back into the donor. So the donor gets to sit very comfortably for about half an hour, do their donation, and then they'll be able to be on their way.
100th donation, and it's the first time doing it as a plasma donor.
100 times of donating blood. How long would that take somebody to do?
It took me about 40 years.
So this is a very momentous occasion.
Oh yeah, I've been waiting this for a couple of years. I had to put off a couple of times because I was on some prescriptions that weren't allowed. So.
We're very fortunate to have a production facility right on our premises. So back here, the actual units come after the donation, they get frozen, and then once the tests are done, then those products then get labeled and sent off to be made into the plasma protein products. And if it is something you're interested in, you can come and see the center, and then we can make an appointment for you if you'd like.
The provincial government is coming under fire for relocating Service Ontario offices and big box stores such as Staples. But Windsor-Tecumseh MPP Andrew Dowie says there are no plans to move the Service Ontario locations out of the 400 City Hall Square East building downtown.
That's the kind of model that I know the province would like to emulate in other places. Partnerships with municipalities, partnerships with First Nations and public libraries, as well as retailers. But there is no plan to change this model that's working well at the 400 City Hall Square East building.
There are two other locations where Service Ontario is located in privately operated businesses in Windsor. He says that the province will review options when the agreements with those partners expire. He says most of the Service Ontario locations in the province are already run by the private sector. The province is planning to refurbish part of Pickering's nuclear generating plant. It's as electricity demand is expected to increase sharply in Ontario in the coming years, but there are questions tonight about the cost and whether the plan makes the most sense. Loranda Redekop has the story.
Great to be here.
The government made its announcement in front of dozens of workers and others in the industry who stand to benefit.
This refurbishment, effectively a major overhaul of 4 of the generators, is going to have a huge impact. Once completely refurbished, the station will produce 2,000 megawatts of safe, reliable, and clean electricity.
The government says the generators date back to the 1980s. Refurbishing them will take 11 years and create about 11,000 jobs a year. The project is set to add more than 30 years to the lifespan of the oldest nuclear station in the country. The government says it'll cost $2 billion just for the initial phase of this refurbishment, but it wouldn't give any answers as to how much it could cost overall.
It would be irresponsible at this point in time to put a number out there, because it's this essential design and scoping and engineering work that is going to get us to the place where we can have a number that we can then look at.
However, the budget for a similar refurbishment at Darlington's nuclear station is $12.8 billion. A Toronto emergency room doctor is among the biggest supporters.
This is great news. It's good news for the climate. 7.6 million transatlantic flights worth of CO2 avoided by keeping this plant in operation.
We're still investing in an outdated 1950s approach, which is high-cost nuclear.
But some critics say nuclear is too slow to build and too expensive.
It just doesn't make any sense. If you want to meet the growing demand for electricity, you should focus on the lowest cost options and the options that can be brought online quickest, and that's wind and solar.
The government disagrees. It paid hundreds of millions of dollars to cancel wind and solar projects when it was first elected, and says nuclear is the most reliable, clean option. As for what people who live near the plant think,
it's run its life cycle and it needs to be shut down because even the refurbishment I'm not overly comfortable with.
We need it as an energy source. It already exists. They've already put billions of dollars into the plant. It employs a lot of people in the region.
It's still not a done deal. It has to be approved by the federal regulator. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Pickering.
A lot of talk about what to do with Festival Plaza this month, so I wanted to look back at what the Riverfront looked like before, a couple years ago, a couple decades ago. Here's a pair of reports from the final days of the Riverfront operating as a rail line. Percy Hatfield starts us off.
Morning rain took some of the enjoyment out of the ceremony, but in exchange for about 750 acres of vacant land on the east side, the people of Windsor now own 6 acres of prime waterfront property. The agreement may be signed, sealed, and delivered, but it'll still be at least 5 years before they start taking these tracks out of here.
And you're all making history here today as well.
After more than 130 years, the railway has left the riverfront. The land will be used for public recreation.
The first thing you will see happening next spring and early next summer will be some of the lands used for the Freedom Festival. And from there, hopefully a project at a time over the next probably 10 to 15 years, you will see different things come to completion, such as, for example, marinas. There's been discussion about museums, trails, bikeways, all of those sorts of amenities for the community.
1, 2, 3. Another one.
Within about a year, professional consultants will have assessed what Windsorites want for the riverfront and come up with a master plan. The railway has become a part of history. Brian Worrell, CBC News on Windsor's Riverfront.
Pretty wild to see what it was and then what it can be now. We take a live look outside, bit of a snow globe feeling this morning and nothing too nice overnight. Victor Paula with the full forecast next. Welcome back. A good reminder today that we are still dealing with the wintry weather here in Windsor. Victor Paulo with a look at the forecast.
Windsor, we had a snowy day today. Nothing like a beautiful snowy day towards the end of January. Now, here's a couple things we can look forward to when it comes to the weather. Well, we have some more scattered flurries in store between now and the overnight. But once that's all said and done, it is going to be a cloudy Wednesday and Thursday. But we do have a sunny weekend in store, so always a good news camp we got to finish off with. Now, average high is minus 8.3, and your average low is minus 0.9. for this time of year. And taking a look at what it's going to be tonight, well, tonight's going to be a foggy one. We're expecting the fog to last all the way through to the morning. It's going to be 0 degrees, feeling like -2 by the time we reach the nighttime. But we're expecting any precipitation over the next couple of days. Well, when it comes to the rainfall, we're going to be expecting about 1 millimeter between now and, let's say, Thursday. Not a whole lot. The main thing that we're going to be receiving is going to be the snow that we received earlier today, about 4 centimeters in total by the time this day is all said and done. But here's what it looks like from a bird's eye view. Well, we have that little bit of snow that passed by earlier today, and we got a bit of periods we're going to see that sun come through on Wednesday, but it's mainly going to be a cloudy Wednesday and mainly a cloudy Thursday. But taking a deeper dive to see exactly what's happening over the Windsor area, well, after the show, it's still going to be cloudy, and the cloud cover is going to be still thick overnight, which is why it's going to be a foggy overnight, and that's also why it's going to be a foggy morning by the time it starts. But as you get towards the rest of the day into Wednesday, it's still going to remain quite cloudy throughout the entire day, as well as into your Thursday as well. So the cloud cover is going to be a big consistent theme. But tomorrow morning when my little Emmy and your little ones are getting ready, it's going to be foggy, 1 degree, feeling like 0 with fog patches. And taking a look at our 3- and 7-day forecast, well, talked about all that cloud cover on Wednesday and Thursday, a bit of it left over on Friday. But as we get closer towards your weekend, well, guess what's coming our way? We've got some sunshine coming our way, which is going to be much needed. It's going to be some periods we're going to get a whole lot of sun. By the time we reach Friday, Saturday, into Monday, the temperatures will dip a little bit for the overtime lows, but we're still experiencing quite the mild winter here for Windsor. Hope you all have yourselves a good night, and over to you.
We got another data breach to tell you about. All the details after the break. Canadian authorities are investigating a data security breach at Global Affairs Canada. This is in response to the detection of malicious cyber activity that's affecting the internal network that's used by staff. The breach affects at least 2 internal drives, along with emails, calendars, and employee contact information. Some employees, they've been told to stop working remotely. CBC has seen 3 internal emails that have been sent to Global Affairs staff. One of them indicates that the internal systems were vulnerable between December 20th and January 24th. It's not clear whether secret information was lost in that breach. An automaker Toyota has issued a do not drive advisory on 3 of its older models. It relates to faulty airbag inflators that were the subject of a major recall back in 2015. Now, the advisory covers some 2003-2004 model years for Corollas, Corolla Matrix, and the 2004-2005 RAV4s with the Takata airbag inflators. Now, it affects about 7,300 cars in Canada. Owners are being asked to contact the dealership and get immediate repairs. The airbag inflator could explode and potentially kill motorists. Footage taken by a wildlife filmmaker may provide the first ever look at a newborn great white shark in the wild. The shark, which was 1.5 meters long, was spotted off the coast of California in the summer. It appeared to be covered in a thin white film, which it shedded as it moved. The filmmaker believes that white substance was an embryonic layer. He documented his observations in a study that appeared in a scientific journal this week. The study calls for further investigation because the sighting could be a breakthrough for scientists. For years, they've been unable to determine where white sharks are born. Now, that's presented challenges in studying the endangered species' reproductive cycle. A Macedonian man's life has gone to the birds, literally. The 67-year-old may not be the first to collect colorful feathered friends, but he's got an exceptional collection of them. He shares the top floor of his house with more than 600 budgies and cockatiel parrots. He says that raising them gives him incredible joy and that he spent the last 20 years caring for his growing flock under his wing. He takes care of them. You see the birdhouses there, certainly a lot of care, a lot of passion into that project right there. Not for me, a little too many, even when I hear them waking me up in the morning outside on the balcony. They love them, but I can't imagine hundreds of them. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to the website cbc.ca/Windsor. Download our app. It's the CBC News app. You can find stories that matter most to you there. We have The National tonight at 9 on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on the CBC app. And we also have that on our GEM and CBC Explore options. Thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a wonderful night.